So let me talk about something for a minute because I see this all the time. And honestly, I completely understand it. I really do. As parents, we all want what's best for our kids. We want to help them succeed. We want to give them opportunities. We want to open doors for them. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to tell you something that might be a little uncomfortable. In my opinion, the biggest mistake parents make in youth sports, and especially when it comes to recruiting, is they try to control the entire process. They try to manage everything, the coaches, the communication, the camps, the schedule, the outreach, everything. And again, it does come from a good place. It really does. But here's the problem. When you do that, you slowly start taking ownership away from your child. And that's the part that people don't always see. Because on the surface, it looks like you're helping, right? You're emailing the coaches, you're setting up the visits, you're pushing them to train, you're making sure that they're quote unquote on track. And again, I get it, I've been there. But here's what I've learned. College coaches are not just recruiting talent. That's what everyone thinks. They think it's all about speed, size, stats, highlights, and of course, that's part of it, but it's not the whole story. Coaches are recruiting something deeper. They're recruiting maturity. They're recruiting accountability. They're recruiting ownership. They're asking themselves, does this kid take initiative? Does he show up on his own? Does he put in the work when no one is watching? Can he handle adversity? Can he communicate? Or is everything coming through the parent? Because I can tell you right now, when a coach sees a parent running the entire process, it raises questions. Not always a deal breaker, but it's a signal. And I've seen this firsthand more than once. I've seen situations when a parent is emailing every single coach, following up constantly, setting everything up, and the kid is barely involved. And you know what happens. Coach isn't just evaluating the player anymore. They're now evaluating the situation. They're thinking, what happens when this kid gets to campus? Who's actually driving this? Is this kid ready? And those are real questions because at the next level, there is no parent managing everything. There's no one waking you up. There's no one sending emails for you. There's no one pushing you every day. You either have it or you don't. And the kids who stand out, the ones who really separate themselves, they're not always the most talented. That's another thing that people get wrong. They're not always the fastest or the biggest or the most naturally gifted. They are the ones who take ownership. They're the ones sending their own emails. They're the ones following up. They're the ones showing up early, staying late, doing the extra work when no one is watching. And that's what coaches notice. And that's what builds trust. See, and as a parent, this is where it gets hard because you want to help. Of course you do. You want to guide them. You want to protect them. You want to give them every advantage. But sometimes the best thing you can do is to just step back. Now, I didn't say disappear, not be uninvolved, but just step back just enough to let them start figuring it out. Let them send the email, let them have the conversation, let them make the mistakes, let them feel a little uncomfortable, because ultimately that's where growth happens and that's where confidence is built. I'll give you a simple example. I've seen kids hesitate to reach out to coaches. They don't know what to say, they're unsure, they're a little intimidated. The parent jumps in and says, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." Sounds helpful, right? But what happens next? The kid never learns how to do it. They never build that skill. Now, every step of the way, they're relying on someone else. That's the pattern. And that pattern shows up later in college, in life, in business, in relationships, everywhere. So again, I'm not saying don't be involved. You should absolutely be involved. You should support them, guide them, give them perspective, be there when they need you. That absolutely matters a lot. But there's a difference between support and control. Support builds confidence, control creates dependence, and that is a big difference because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to get an offer. That's what everyone focuses on. The offer, the commitment, the announcement. That's the visible part, but that's not the real goal. The real goal is to build a young man or a young woman who's ready for that opportunity, who can walk into that environment and handle it mentally, emotionally, physically on their own. And those are two very different things, getting an offer and being ready for what comes next. So if you're a parent watching this, and I want you to think about this honestly, no judgment, just honestly ask yourself, am I helping my child grow or am I doing it for them? Because that answer matters more than anything. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more videos on life, discipline, and success.